What's up, you guys? Ritzy here with another Gen 9 VGC speculation video. Today talking a little more about the new battle gimmick, Terastallizing. Now in the last video, I had some questions about some things that I wasn't sure, like how this mechanic would work. And on the official Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet page, we can read a little bit more about how Terastallizing works. So all Pokemon in Paldea can Terastallize to gain special power. First, each Pokemon has a Terra type. Pokemon's Terra type is inactive until the Pokemon Terastallizes, at which time the Pokemon's type will change to its Terra type. For example, some Eevee will have a normal Terra type, but some other Eevee have a flying Terra type. There are 18 types, meaning there are countless combination of Pokemon and Terra types. So there are two very interesting things about this for me. First of all, Eevee having a flying Terra type, and basically them insinuating that each Pokemon can have every single existing type. Now maybe there are more details, there are countless combinations, but that doesn't mean every Pokemon has access to all 18 Terra types. But the reason Eevee is interesting to me, let me show some spoilers and grab Eevee for me, is one of my speculations from before is that you needed to have a move that matched your Terra type. But if we look at Eevee's current moveset, as it is right now, it cannot learn a single flying move. Now maybe they gave it a new one, perhaps a Generation 9 flying type move. That means that you can change your type without actually having a move, which offensively isn't good, but defensively is fantastic. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. And since we're already here, these are the top 10 Pokemon I think that will benefit immediately from Terastallizing. First, these first three are going to be more offensive. Sylveon being the first one of the evolutions. It has the ability Pixelate, where normal type moves become fairy type and have 1.2 times power. Now, I don't believe it says anything about needing an item to Terastallize. It's like your Mega... No, not because you hold a Mega Stone, but I guess like a Dynamax band. You got your one per battle kind of usage tool. So you stack a Pixie Plate, Pixelate, Hyper Voice boosted Terastallize with a 110 special attack. That's going to hit like a truck. The same thing will go for Azumarill. Azumarill has huge power. It gets Belly Drum. You probably want to run a Berry with it, so you wouldn't get that boost, but a Belly Drum, huge power, stab, Terastallized Liquidation is probably going to get you a lot of knockouts if you can get that setup done. The last of this trio is Clawitzer, which has the ability Mega Launcher, where pulse moves have 1.5 times power. The problem with Clawitzer is that, its best current pulse-based water stab move is Water Pulse, which is only base 60. Times 1.5 is good with stab, and you can Terastallize into water, so it gets better. But I think Clawitzer will really benefit from like a Dragon typing, so Dragon Stab with Dragon Pulse with the 1.5 times, or Dark Pulse is base 80, and Clawitzer is going to get a lot better because it's going to be able to do a lot more damage as potentially a Trick Room Mon with that awesome 120 special attack, and an ability that I think needs more love. Offensively, there's going to be some firepower that we're going to have to learn how to deal with. And again, I haven't run the calcs because we don't know the multiplier for Terastallizing yet, I'm pretty sure. But I really like that some of these Pokemon Clawitzer especially is probably going to be more of a force to be reckoned with. And we'll have to figure out game plans for these other ones. Venomoth, I talked about in my last video as an underrated Pokemon in Gen 9 VGC. I think a lot of people are going to sleep on this, especially if the thing I mentioned, and hopefully we won't have to run a dark type move. We turn this thing into a dark poison type. And if we go back here, I think it says something about at which time the Pokemon's type will change to its Terra type. Now, I don't know if that means all terastallized Pokemon are single type, which would not be as good as, you know, the dark poison, but even just getting rid of the bug type, if you're using Venomoth as a defensive support, will be really good for it, because this is one of your redirection users with Rage Powder, and getting rid of a type that's got a lot of weaknesses will help it out a lot. And that's my first defensive example of what Terastallizing can do. Again, Dark Poison currently is only weak to ground types, so that is a huge help. So now moving on to the next 6. First, any ice type, first of all, is going to benefit from Terastallizing, especially if it replaces the ice type. Titan, one of the new Pokemon, should be one of them, and Beartic will definitely benefit. The cool thing about this Pokemon is it has both Slush Rush and Swift Swim, so you can use this on Hail teams and on Rain teams, and you can get a Terra type that fits your team composition much better. And Beartic's got, you know, it's got Fighting type coverage, it's got Steel type coverage, we've got Dark, we've got Fairy, so lots of different stab moves that we can give it with Terra typing. And then you get the speed bonus. It's only got 50 base speed, so it's not like going to become incredibly fast. But this should be a slower meta than what we maybe be used to in, you know, current Sword and Shield VGC battles. So you should be able to make it work still. It'll outspeed anything below base 100, which there are quite a few. And then even without like an ability active, it should be a sufficient enough check in Trick Room, and taking away a horrible defensive typing like this. Another thing to note is that this says, I believe, when a Terastallized Pokemon uses a move that matches its Terra type and at least one of its original types, the boost to that move's power will be even greater. That almost sounds like dual type attacks. I'll have to maybe read into it later, but it leads me to believe that maybe you'd get to keep. So like we replace this and we put Icicle Crash on, like that would still be stab even though you changed your Beartic to like a fairy type. So that will make this a much better Pokemon, because the biggest thing going against it is its single typing. Next up is Tyranitar, who will be good regardless. Like, Tyranitar does not need a gimmick to be good. Sandstream, it summons Sandstorm, and what it doesn't say here is it also boosts its special defense, and as a pseudo legendary, it's got phenomenal stats. Super good defenses, really good attack. 134 is the highest, if not just one of the top highest attack stats currently confirmed in the game. And Rock Dark is a pretty good offensive typing. The problem being that Rock type is not a good defensive typing, especially if your opponent is carrying Fighting type coverage. But with Terra typing, you can change that Rock type to something that gets, you know, let's say like we've got some sort of Iron Head. You want some Iron Head stab as well as the defensive properties of Iron Head. I guess that still leaves you 4 times weak to fighting, but just as an example, you can get a better defensive typing on an already great defensive Pokemon, generally, with its stats. And if it keeps the Rock type stab boost, you can keep really powerful Rock Slide and like a Lash Out. And Tyranitar is going to just love this. One of those Pokemon that's been benefiting from most of the battle mechanics in the series. This will be an interesting one. I had put this because I wasn't sure if it had to be, you know, a type that matched a move that you had, but now taking that away, having a lightning rod user that's not electric type can be very, very interesting, because that will take away a weakness from potentially another type. And I actually liked the water example. So like if you have a Surf Raichu, that's how it worked. You're now a water type that's only weak to grass. And that's pretty cool, because let's say you want to run 2 electric types on your team because of the way they fit. Like Raichu's a good supporter with Fake Out and Electro Web and Eerie Impulse, and you really want to use that, but you don't want to stack that weakness, that ground weakness, with your other electric type. Let's say Palmy evolves or something, and you really want to use that as well. You get a Terraform Raichu, turn it into not a ground type, let's just say a water type, and it's immune to electricity still, and all you have to worry about is that grass type. So that's another really good way to make your Pokemon more defensive. And I brought Lumineon from my last video as well. Originally it was Vaporeon, because Vaporeon can learn Mud Slap, and a ground type with Water Absorb is really good, which the regional Wooper has, so I'm excited about that. But if it doesn't, if I'm understanding correctly, and you don't have to have a move that matches your Terra type, that means you can change your Lumineon to something that would normally be weak to water and now has Storm Drain. So let's say you want a ground type Lumineon that is now immune to water types and has a completely different defensive typing depending on the matchup. And you also get to decide when to trigger the Terra typing. So you could totally leave this as a water type if your opponent has, let's say, just like neutral coverage on the field, and then they switch in an electric type. You change into ground, and you still have your Storm Drain active to protect your rock type Tyranitar, since you only can Terastallize one Pokemon at a time. And again, I think Lumineon's going to be slept on because it also gets Tailwind along with Storm Drain and just some other decent moves. Last 2 we got. Rock types are kind of under that same boat as the ice types, where a normally poor defensive typing can be switched out for something else. And Power Spot is going to be a really good ability next to other Terastallizing Pokemon. So that's kind of a decision you have to make. This Pokemon's allies have the power of their moves multiplied by 1.3. So maybe you'd rather actually sash this instead of Terastallizing it. Because you could run like a, you've got your Wide Guard, ally switch. This could be just kind of a bonus. You could stack the Power Spot onto a Life Orb and Terastallize into a better typing, or you can Focus Sash because you can stick that next to like your Sylveon, and you've got Pixie Plate, Pixelate, Terastallize, Stab, Power Spot boosted moves. That's an insane calc to think about. So, yeah, this would probably, like out of my top 10, Stonjourner would probably be last. And then I threw on Espeon, just because, and I mentioned Espeon before, I believe, where it's got a good special attack and good speed for this early format. And basically what Terastallizing will do is give it a stab bonus outside of just an Expanding Force or Psychic. And that could be really good. It's like throwing a Z move onto it for certain matchups. So if you're afraid of Hydreigon, for example, would be a bad matchup for Espeon normally because of its Psychic type and Hydreigon's Stab Dark type. And if Dazzling Gleam isn't enough to normally take out a well-built Hydreigon, you can give it a Terra typing to, first of all, give it immunity to its Dragon Stab and resistance to its Dark Stab, and hit it really hard with Dazzling Gleam. So there you have it. These are the 10 Pokemon that I think immediately on paper benefit from Terastallizing. Let me know in the comments if there's a Pokemon that you think I missed, one of your favorites that Terastallizing is really going to help, and leave a like, support the channel, and we'll have a lot of fun playing some Gen 9 together. Thanks for watching.